Let's turn these two boring chords into this. What's good, B-Sticks here, and I am a guy that loves simplicity. I like to keep things simple, and I like to show you how you can keep things simple, but then how you can elevate that simplicity and make something amazing. That's what we're doing today. 2 chords again. If you've seen any of my old videos, you know that I get straight to the point. And these 2 chords are some that you've heard in some of your favorite Brent Faiyaz tunes, I promise you. And we are going to look at, what we can do with them. Go follow me on Instagram, guys, at B-Sticks Production. Hit me up for a one-to-one. We can go in depth with anything you want to go over, any areas you need to work on. I'm your guy. Hit me up. And copper-free mini kit, the link is in the description, guys. There's going to be plenty more coming soon, I promise you. Let's get into it right now. So we got these 2 chords today that we're using in our track, but what I was referring to in the beginning is that Brent Faiyaz loves to use 2 chords in his music, and then he obviously does his thing on top. Keep the beat simple, right, in its theory, but the execution and the complexities within the beat itself make them interesting, keep the listener engaged. And that's exactly what I want you to think about when you're using these 2 chords, and how you're going to then manipulate these 2 chords to maybe keep interest, make it not just sound like it's 2 chords looping around. If I didn't tell you that it was 2 chords, you'd probably be like, it's just 2 chords, no way. But in the simplicity, there is like complexity. And this exact descending progression is used in Dead Man Walking. We are going from what is known as the 4 chord to the 3 chord. Super simple. What I mean by that, if you don't know any theory, is we refer to a major scale from being 1, the root note of the major scale, all the way up to 7 and then back to 1 again. And that whole distance is 1 octave. Now, Dead Man Walking is actually in C major, but today we're working in G major, which is a key that I love to work in. And you'll notice that we have a C chord moving down to a B chord. And the rule of thumb is that the 4th chord in a major scale, when you turn a major scale into chords, is going to be a major chord, some kind of major chord, and the 3 chord is going to be some kind of minor chord. So what we've got is a simple C major triad moving to a B minor triad. Have a listen. Not very exciting. However, as I always say, what we need to do is add extensions to these chords, number 1, and then flip the notes around, and then maybe play them in different ways and orchestrate them. By orchestrate, I just mean use different sounds and textures to make them sound interesting and not just boring 2 chords looping around and around. Now, what we can do is we can take any notes within these chords, create melodies, or even from the scale of G major, or even outside if you think that sounds good, and create little melodies and things that can interplay with each other. Arpeggios is one thing. Arpeggios just means like we can just play each note, and that in itself can be something that you can use. First thing that we're going to do is just elevate these basic chords. I mean, this here is just a C major chord. The first thing you learn on the piano, the C, the E, and the G. When you put your fingers down on the piano, it's what any little kid can play. And yeah, it's just built from your root note, your major third, and your 5th. If we were to draw a note directly underneath our root note, raise it up an octave, we have a C major 7th chord. And if we are to then take a note 2 notes above our root and raise it up, we have a C major 9 chord with the 7th and the 9th. Now, it sounds a bit shrill up there, but again, if we drop that down an octave, with a beautiful sounding textured chord. And again, like I always say, we could, that sounds awful, right? What I tend to find is that in this kind of range, you want to be maybe moving 1 or 2 notes higher. Oh wow, listen to that inversion there, it's beautiful. And that second chord still sounds terrible. Let's kind of have a look and see what we can maybe do to change this around. Now, what I actually like the sound of is a major 9 chord going into a minor 7 chord, not a minor 9 chord always. And what do I mean by that? Well, here's our B chord, right? If we draw a note, 2 notes underneath the root and raise it up, I mean, that just sounds terrible, because what you can see is that none of these notes in this chord really are anywhere close to these notes. So what about if we take these 2, drop them down? Wow, listen to that. It sounds amazing. And all we would need to do is like drop the BPM down a little bit. You know, and you've already got 2 beautiful chords that can you know, sound really good in an R&B track. Look, if we just maybe double up on some bass notes here. So, wow, right? And what you'll find is that if we orchestrate these out, which by orchestrate, as I said before, just mean like put them on different sounds, or maybe draw out some of the notes like this, so we can just kind of give a little bit more of a human feel to these chords. Within a couple of minutes, we've got 2 beautiful, beautiful, rich sounding textured chords that will be excellent for you to play around with. We can take this a step further. I'll give you a bonus chord as well. If we take this B here and we make it an A, so we just drop it by, you know, 2 semitones down, we have 3 beautiful chords. We've got a 4-3-2 progression. You know, you can use that as well. You could maybe flip that note up there. Wow, see, you're already sounding like voicings that a real pianist or keyboardist would use, or that producers would use in this genre to create beautiful rich chords. But the difference is you actually know what you're doing here, and you know how to build these, which is great to have in your toolkit. Let's move into the beat itself, and I'll show you about some actual mixing tips, texture tips, and ways we can, again, break these chords up to give ourselves some real variation and make them our own. So I'm going to walk you through this beat, and there's different sections. There's an intro section where I use certain techniques. There's a main body where you can hear that the drums drop in, and then there's like an outro section. So I'm going to give you some ideas for each section to improve your different areas of your beat while maintaining the same chords. And this was inspired originally by listening to Where You At, which is a similar kind of 2-chord song. Instead of it going from the 4-3, you're going to the 3-4. You're going from a D minor 7th to a E flat major 9 chord, and that just repeats. But what is being done to those chords is where the magic is, and hopefully I can give you some of those techniques here. I started this whole thing with this organ sound that I found in the Triton, just called hymnal organ. Have a look at these voicings here. So although these chords might look kind of weird to you, these were just achieved by, again, moving notes around within those chords until I found some voicings that I thought fit this sound and what I had in my head. So there's tip number 1 for you. So you can hear it's quite a closed kind of voicing. By that I mean the notes are quite close together. It's like a C major 9, but you know, give or take, I might have taken out a note or 2 here, but the framework was already there. And then to this, what I want you to pay attention to is this do, like these top notes, or what we call the melody notes, and also the length of these notes here are all different. They're not just quantized like blocks. I've left a little bit of space here for the music to breathe, and then I've also kept this going along, and then I actually added another sound with tons of processing on it. I'll show you what that sound sounds like on its own. See, it sounds quiet and feels, it's got almost like a cold kind of ethereal sound to it. And you can see if I take all these plugins off, how different it sounds, right? And I think I'm just copying the same MIDI that I used on the organ, but this is what I want you to try as well. Just kind of play around with plugins, but each one has its own sort of purpose. So I wanted to watch it out initially, then give it a little bit of like analog wobble, if you will, some phasing, which I thought would be, you know, one of the key elements to the kind of Brent Faiyaz trippy kind of sound. EQ'd it in, then I half timed it to, I think the majority of the sound is there now, and then I use this Portal preset here. And that's what gives us that sort of like those echoes. Shaper box, where I just wanted it to have a little bit of bounce to it. I use this a lot, this technique with Shaper box. When I've got a sound that feels a bit static, I give it movement with Shaper box. I EQ'd it again because the Portal brought in some funny artifacts. And then I use center, where I just took down the center and I wanted to spread this sound a little bit out to the sides, as you can see my settings here, and we were left with this very haunting kind of pad sound together. Almost sounds like voices, like a choir, and that was exactly what I had in mind. So you can hear this pad. Now this pad is just playing a pedal note. Check this out. But when you add that to the... And then at the end there's this bit of tension just before it comes into the drop, and I really, really love doing things like that, where I'm just kind of ramping up, making you feel a little bit on edge at that point there. I took a little vocal chop just from Splice, I reversed it, I put a few effects on it just because, again, just to give us that like that texture of the voice. Sometimes I send voice notes to my computer and do it that way, but this time I just thought it would work with an actual singer being able to do it properly. And I did actually add a bass in, and I used my trusty Moog Growler Moog bass in Omnisphere. I know Omnisphere 3 is out, but I haven't managed to check that out yet. I just played literally the root notes here with little gaps again for space. I grabbed the texture, which was just an airport texture. And then I created this little percussion part here with a few different sounds, which just is like... Again, it's meant to be quite low, quite backgroundy, but I just kind of like these short little reverse, and all together you get this. So what happens as we move into the organ part is the same. One other thing that I was doing on this organ as well, I thought it was a little bit static again, and I actually touch automated the EQ on it to just move around like this, you'll see. Subtle, really subtle, but it just introduces a little bit of high end at certain times during and it's random as well, so it's kind of giving movement. The main thing that I got from that, like where you at, is just, I was like, what sound is that? And I was trying to kind of get there a little bit with this, with my processing, my thought pattern, you know. I think it's always important, as I say, to have intention with every sound. I mean, you can also hear this little, just making this little melody. And look, I haven't quantized this, I kept it quite natural. And the sound that I used here is this 30303 square, which I think is based on a 303 Machina Roland. So, and what I'm trying to do here with the processing as well is just, again, just make it sound a little bit interesting. Like, to me, just stock sounds out the box always sound a bit boring, static. So I'm always looking to add movement. I just use Logic stock phaser, and I use this loads. EQ, just rolling off some bottom there. Shaper box, my favorite, as you know, I always use this. And I'm just using this like time filter here, so it kind of gets louder and quieter and moves in and out in this filter setting as well, like I was doing on the organ earlier, but just opening up the cutoff there, just to kind of give us some, again, just some movement, some interest. I'm always trying to elevate sounds, never sort of using them stock, but I always kind of have an intention in my mind of what I want that particular sound to service, like in terms of the energy and the beat, what I want it to bring. I think it's a good time now to maybe look at the drums that I used or programmed here. I like working mainly in audio with drums. And you can see here the pattern that I've put in. People ask me all the time, how do you process your drums? They always sound so clean, loud. And I'm just like, use good sounds and just try and level everything. Mixing wise, I level everything to my kick. As long as my kick's hitting at like kind of -4, -3, I know I can kind of make everything else sound good around it. Hats wise, I normally program in MIDI. I do quantize, but I don't tend to sort of move the velocity. I play them in as well, and then I kind of like, quantize, but I don't change the velocities very often. You can see them all over here. And sometimes like here, I'll draw in a little velocity rising, ramping thing. In Logic, it's quite easy to do that. You just will click like this little thing here. You can just draw in stuff here. And that's what I tend to do if I'm going to do it that way. And I just left some spaces, muted some out where I felt like the beat needed to breathe a little bit. Can you hear those strange sounds that I've like made a little bit loud? Just these kind of weird, different sounds that I hear in a lot of music that I like, and I'm trying to emulate that. So like, don't be afraid to stick in like a bird call or something random and weird, because you know everyone's using the same sounds. So you just want to vary it up a little bit. And again, where I've placed these is not like the same every 4 or 8 bars. You can see I've just like randomly placed it in different places, and I've made sure that it also plays in the key. So if I were to play like, the thing that I always pick up with Brent is texture. And again, you can see this airport texture that I've put in here that's just kept it quite loud as well. And the sound that I showed you before, that strange organ manipulated Sky Keys sound, is like adding to texture. Every sound has a kind of a textural element that it's bringing, in my opinion, like that pad. Bass wise, I really like this sound here, Bass Halcyon in the JX3P. Just had quite a meaty sound to it. And again, my bass, if I just solo out my bass and my drums for a second here. I like it when you can just solo out 1 or 2 parts in your beat and it still sounds fire, and that's what I attempted to do. Like my bass lines, I always see as like an extension. I don't just sort of stick a random root notes in. I always want my bass lines to tell a story as well. So I dance around a bit. I use octaves, like I use different approach notes, as you can see, passing notes to sort of really make a melody, make the bass hooky as well. I'm also sidechaining my bass to my kicks, so that every time my kicks come in, probably a bit strong. Normally I like to do like 5 dB of gain reduction on my bass, so that's just done like this. So all you would do is just go and put a compressor on your bass and set the input, sidechain input, to your kick channel, and then every time the kick plays, your bass, kind of the low end of the bass, is going to just move out the way, or the bass is going to just move out the way for that kick to poke through. And I picked quite a transient punchy kick as well. You can see you don't lose that on small speakers. You don't lose the bass on small speakers either, like on earbuds or on your phone, because there's a lot of high-end information in the bass that again I've like accentuated here. And I'm kind of blasting through a couple of mixing tips, but I do get asked these questions a lot, and hopefully this is going to help you. I brought in this EP sound here, which I'm just going to solo out, which is like a kind of steel Dre piano. If you notice how I strummed out these notes, and they're not on the grid either, so it kind of gives a lazy feel to everything. This is just the Rhodes in Omni and some processing on it. Just playing those chords out. It sounds quite crunchy. And that little whoop is another interesting thing, where I just added a sound shifter on the end of each phrase, and I just like pitched it down quickly to rise back up, and you'll hear that in the context, it sounds really interesting. Look. That's pretty much all I had. I mean, I brought in 1 or 2 sounds, like another lead sound for the second section. Every 8 bars, I'm looking to add a new sound, keep the interest, or take a sound out. And again, that was the concept that I thought of for the outro as well. Just broke it down, let that kind of play out. That's the same chords again, and then contrast. I always talk about darkness and light, or like shade or tension and release. And this last kind of whatever it is, 16 bars or whatever, I've really contrasted what came before, like that high intensity, with just this piano from Labs. I know it says organ, ignore that, it's not, it's piano. And I think I just wanted it to be really soft. Just copied that, copied the MIDI out, and again, don't think I just took all the plugins off of this. There's nothing on there, so it's just very bare, but you've got that kind of staticky sound, which I don't know if I love it, but it's interesting. So you got that on the end there. Anyway, if you got something out of this, that's great. That's what I was looking for. And if you want to know more, just hit me up on IG for a 1-to-1. Look at the video in the top corner for some more source, and I'll see you again soon, guys.